I now want to shift focus to an apprehension in Jammu and Kashmir. Stone pelting was on through 2016 after terrorist Burhan Wani was killed. Now there is apprehension that petrol bombs and acid bombs may be used coming summer. There is an unusually high demand for acid in Jammu Kashmir, and this has come to the attention of intelligence agencies who fear that stone pelters, Pakistan's proxies, may resort to acid bombs to inflict greater damage on security forces. Police and Central Armed Police personnel have already been braving stone pelting mobs. Petrol bombs have been hurled at them in the past. They're making an effort to provide Jawans with protective gear, including helmets with visors and shields to prevent acid bottles. But is that protection enough is the big question. Now, just a couple of days ago, General Bipin Rawat, Chief of the Army Staff, had warned anti-national elements, stone pelters, to desist from interfering or blocking anti-terrorist operations. Let's listen in.
And as we are conducting operations against them, we find that the local population somehow is not becoming supportive of the actions of the security forces. That people who have picked up arms, and these are the local boys, if they want to continue with this acts of terrorism, displaying flags of ISIS and Pakistan, then we will treat them as anti-national elements. They may survive today, but we will get them tomorrow. And our relentless operations will continue.
Relentless operations will take place, says the Chief of the Army Staff. I want to quickly bring in India Today's Shujaul Haq, who's been reporting from the heart of action in Jammu and Kashmir. Also with me is Major Gaurav Arya. He's a defense expert. He's served in the Kashmir Valley. But Shuja, I want to come to you first. Stone pelting was one apprehension. We've seen some images of petrol bombs being hurled at security forces, Molotov cocktails. But how big is the apprehension of acid bottles or acid bombs being used?
Well, Gaurav, here is the thing. Remember for last couple of months when there was an unrest in the valley after Burhan Wani encounter, a lot of incidents of stone pelting clashes took place. It is that time when a report was generated. In fact, it was an internal assessment that there is a possibility of the fact that some of these boys could use acid bombs as well. Though there is no such incident that has happened yet, which has been recorded by the police anywhere in the valley, but there still is an apprehension. Petrol bombs, yes, are used. They've been seen in camera footages as well. MCs, as they are called, Molotov cocktails, are used by many of these boys in these incidents, and that is the reason why an assessment was made, and it was said that the paramilitary forces and the police forces who are at the front line of dealing with such law and order situations need to have special gears. These full body suits were also said that there would be there'd be such protective gears which would act as a counter in case of a petrol bomb being hurled or an acid bomb being hurled. And this is something which has been going on for a couple of months now. The ironic part is that even when there is a threat, there is apprehensions, and incidents are still going on, though in a lesser number of manners, but there has been no forward movement in those requirements. That's something that one
alarming.
Is baffled. Why there is no forward movement in requirement of providing that care?
Oh, and that is alarming. But Major Arya, is there any protection against an acid attack? You can wear a helmet with a visor, but acid will corrode through whatever clothes personnel will be wearing. So what's the best defense?
Gaurav, first of all, we need to understand why they're doing this. And the reason why they're doing this is that they want to push the envelope. After the chief's statement, this is just a conspiracy on the part of Pakistan and the separatists, wherein they can sort of confront the security forces and push them to such an extent that somebody from the security forces reacts and there is a casualty, and this, manufacturing of a martyr, a shaheed overnight. Now, as regards the defense, I don't think we have clothing like this. If it's available outside of India, I'm not sure. But within India, there is no clothing which can immediately protect you, because you can't cover your face completely. You're in operations. You have to have freedom of movement. So I think the best thing is to make sure that where you're standing, where the troops are standing, there is a line. Let's say a person can throw an acid bottle 20-25 yards. Anybody who crosses that line needs to be neutralized effectively.
Look at these images that we are putting out in India Today. Shujaul Haq and Ashraf Vania, reporters on ground, have been reporting on stone pelting. But look at this image, Major Arya. There you see these youngsters. How would security personnel know whether they're hurling a stone or a petrol bomb? Of course, in this you can see that there's something which is caught fire and something with burning fire is about to be thrown. So how do you deal with that?
Yes, normally in Army we have a manual called the Aid to Civil Authorities. And in Aid to Civil Authorities it is very clearly mentioned that these are the lines that a person may not cross. And there is a line, physically demarcated line on the ground. Anybody crossing the line without a bottle, or does not have a bottle, or has a bottle with him, or anything that looks intimidating, has to be taken down. That is the only way to control, because this is a mob of hundreds of people.
Yes.
We'll just end up losing security forces, and these mobs know that the security forces will not use lethal force. So these people that you see on your screen, Gaurav, they are not doing this because of bravery. They're doing this because of the certain knowledge that they will not be harmed by the security forces.
Okay.
Because if you have a soldier with an AK-47 and he's given orders to use it, and if he uses that AK-47, you will not find all these young Kashmiri lion hearts on the street. They'll all be sitting at home. They'll not come on the street.
Okay, Shuja, explain this for the benefit of our viewers. When these youngsters come out of their homes and pelt stones, or as we can see in these images, some of them hurl a petrol bomb, a Molotov cocktail, or God forbid, an acid bomb. If there is a response from security forces, how will that be taken, Shuja?
Well, that's exactly the point, Gaurav. Remember, you and me have covered Kashmir in 2010 as well, when there was huge unrest, and 2016 as well. See, the biggest factor, the biggest challenge that is thrown at the entire establishment, including the civilian as well as the military and the police, is civilian casualties, because it has a spiraling effect. Remember in 2010, when more than 120 people had died, the only thing that was fueling more protests was deaths. One death leads to another death, and then more protests and death, and it becomes a huge span of unrest, leading to six months or 5 months. In 2016's case, it was for 4 months. So that becomes the challenge. It is a huge cause of concern for the entire establishment.
Yes.
Many are suggesting that rather than using military force or force by the security establishment, it is much better if the political establishment, particularly the mainstream political establishment, does its job properly, and they reach out to people so that this situation does not arise when there is a confrontation between the military.
But why isn't that happening?
People.
Terrorist Burhan Wani was killed in 2016 in August. Now, subsequently, has that reaching out to the youngsters, reaching out to the parents, has that happened, or is Sadbhavna restricted only to the army and the Central Armed Police Forces?
Well, that's the problem, Gaurav. It doesn't trickle down. That's the issue that has been seen with Kashmir Valley. Now look at it. We've seen for past more than a month now that there is some respite in the unrest. The shutdowns have come down. This is the time when the political establishment should be seen running everywhere. There should be local politicians, local MLAs holding meetings, talking to people, delegations coming in from outside as well. But that doesn't happen. These people
That
eventually
reaching
go back
out.
to
Let
their
me also
works
bring in
in their...
Engineer Rashid. Shuja, stay with me for a moment. Engineer Rashid, apprehension of use of petrol bombs and acid bombs. Clearly, this cannot be justified at all by stone pelters in Jammu and Kashmir, sir.
Sir, I think you are putting a question to a wrong person. It is for the security agencies and the Jammu and Kashmir police to answer. How can I comment on a thing about which I have no information, sir?
But can anyone justify the use as an MLA? Will you ask youngsters not to use petrol bombs and acid bombs?
Absolutely. Yes, you are 100% right. Who will advise? I think even Gilani Sahib and other leaders would also not give their no to these things. We are peace-loving people. We want a political resolution to the problems, and we are not with the violence. Sometimes violence is being thrusted upon us. For God's sake, don't defame Kashmiris. When we tell when the youngsters take to school, it is always a reaction to what security forces are doing.
No, but nothing justifies the use of stones either, Engineer Rashid.
No, I'll just tell you, Gaurav, my sensing is that, see, in any civilized country in the world, you can't do this with a cop in New York City. You can't do this with a policeman in China. It's only in India that the security forces are deployed in Kashmir, and there is so much of fear in the mind of the security forces that you do something and it'll spiral out of control. Sure, it'll spiral out of control, but that is also because we are very tentative when we pass messages. You know what Engineer Rashid is saying is right. We must speak to the people on the ground, and why not? They are our citizens.
Yes.
But the problem with the political parties in Kashmir is that whoever is in power becomes patriotic, and whoever is in the opposition starts, dancing with the separatists again.
And that completely needs to stop. I've run out of time on the broadcast, but Engineer Rashid, Shuja ul Haq and Major Gaurav Arya, many thanks for joining me on this discussion. And this is one message that should go out from everyone to everyone. No violence. Violence, stone pelting, acid attacks, petrol bombs, completely unacceptable. We will continue.